guys. So tonight, we're going to be doing a very broad but fun, animated, all sorts of just different things as where to start for all the people out there that are looking into this conscious path, right? If you're trying to figure out what do I do next, or where can I get more information, or, you know, a number of the different things that I just talk to with so many people about all the time. And it's going to be a very different take for a lot of people because it's not really much in the mainstream or much as, I don't know. There's a lot of things that people do these days that are for different reasons than what other people do them for. And in 2019, we have a lot of tools at our disposal that we don't really use as the tools that they are, right? So tonight, if you guys are with me, we're doing a live podcast on my Facebook Live. You can find me at Halo Marquise. If you're with me on Artist First, please feel free to shoot in an email about any questions that you guys might have. So tonight's podcast for Alchemy 101 is going to be about where to start, which is the basics of Jedi alchemy and metaphysics for 2019. Okay, so one of the things I felt was really important about breaking down these aspects for you guys, right? And it's a really, really big deal, is you want to have a starting point, you want to have a middle, you want to have an end, and then those three steps are actually going to end up being something you repeat over and over and over. It's really interesting, but as we said a lot of times on the show, you will evolve. You revolve until you evolve. And so that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. It's going to be incredible. So for the Order of Alchemy, we have our 7 pillars as the elements, the chakra points, so on. But everyone starts with 3 main pillars of study. And everyone's in the channel tonight. Johan, Cody, Jared, Shelly, great to see you guys. If you guys have any questions about anything, please feel free to interrupt. It's really meant to be more of a discussion than just me talking the whole time. So thank you guys for showing up. Always good to see you guys. So the 3 pillars of study are the self, the multiverse, and alchemy. Okay, and tonight we'll get into, I guess, some finer details as to what those actually mean and how those equivalent to things and so on. But we're going to do it in a really fun way. Okay, so just to give you guys kind of a pre-introduction for each of those, and then we'll get into it. And please, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to chime in. Because I'm very interested in everyone's take on this. It's going to be really exciting, I think. So for the self, right? Because the self, depending on where you're at in your being, in your journey at this point, is either just the physical, which is fine. It might be the parent role. It might be the student role. It might be the 9 to 5. You could, there's a number of different places we all could be at. And Cody, yeah, if you want to take notes, please. I don't think there's going to be a quiz yet, but you never know. We'll see what happens by the end of the night. So the self, really what you're finding out is the who and what you are, right? And that's going to be your physical, your mental, and your spiritual. Right now, these are the 3 main aspects that we look at because those are the 3 that we have the most understanding about, right? So who knows how many other dimensions each of us have and how many other aspects that we haven't realized or actualized yet. But this is what we've got to deal with right now. So this is the best approach that we've got, right? So your physical is going to be like your anatomy, the physical makeup of our reality, right? The fields that we come across, whether they're the electromagnetic type, radiated. I mean, there's a number of different fields. There's the human biofield. And these are just the things, again, that make up this version of this reality we have right now, which is an amazing time to be alive and an amazing time to be experiencing this. So, again, hope you guys are really excited. So aside from the physical, we've got the mental, which is going to be your consciousness, right? The perceived reality that you're experiencing right now in this shared version of tonight's show. It's also going to be where your intelligence is at and how you perceive intelligence and your understanding of it and your want or unwant for it, for whatever reason that those could be. And then you've got your emotional fortitude, which, guys, really at the end of the day, I know they try to say there's an emotional thing outside the mental. That's just not true. I apologize. It's not something I can get on board with. I wish I had a little sign prove me wrong, and we can talk for a long time about this. But so aside from emotional fortitude, the last part of the mental is the all mind, right? Everything is this perception, the thought, the product, the pattern, the process. In what is it? The three initiates, the Kabbalah, actually they call it the All Mind, and it's essentially mass consciousness that we have this shared energy field of thought. It's an incredible thing. And then third, again, is going to be the spiritual, which is your actual being, right? The thing that's inside your little meat suit right now that's experiencing this 3D version with your senses and such, right? But your being is your soul. That's your consciousness. That's so much more than just what's here. And through alchemy, Jedi practices, and a number of other modalities, guys, I'll never say that the version of what the approach I have is the only way. This is just what's worked really, really well for me. It's been amazingly fun. It's just so many things that people and experiences that led me here that hopefully these versions work for other people. I mean, that's the best that we all can hope for. So again, if you want to take notes or apply it, try it a few times and just see what works for you, right? So, and again, aside from those three aspects, guys, I definitely believe that we have way more aspects than just those three things, but that's what we've got to work with, right? So the next pillar of study is going to be the multiverse, right? And the multiverse, again, guys, is the shared version of all the parallels and ups and downs and the third to the ninth and 12th and who knows how many and so on of these energy fields and dimensions and places of different sound and space and light. And really that's all it comes down to. So the multiverse, understanding that pillar is about just understanding, frequency, vibration, energy, what Einstein and Tesla were talking about, right? From micro to macro, the gigantic amount of patterns and sacred geometry and fractal patterns and time and perception. This is all part of the multiverse pillar. It's very, very important because if you want to learn to be able to manifest things in real time, or you want to be able to avoid certain realities, you have to be aware of their existence and what they feel like. And so through different studies and practices, and again, guys, tonight's show is going to be very different than what everyone's expecting, but I promise you it's going to be all sorts of keys and tools. So just stick with it. I promise. Other parts of the multiverse is going to be things like time travel and time control, which if you know anyone that knows me in real life, some people digitally as well, the whole time control and time pockets is literally my favorite part of energy work, because there's been times where we've lost days. There's been times where we've gained days or watched 3 to 4 different documentaries, movies, whatever it was, in a very short amount of time that should not work that way. But again, this is something that's outside of the regular version of reality. And guys, that's the thing. If you wake up tomorrow and decide that you're a baseball player and you go through the motions, guess what? You're now a baseball player. You can take that as serious or non-serious as you want to, but your reality is what you perceive it and what you make it to be. Now, again, the plane and dimension of existence we're in right now, of course, has some rules and has some regulations and things that keeps you stifled from being able to access the ether and the energy around you. But through different practices that we're going to talk about tonight on the show, there are ways to manipulate and almost bend those things. I hate to use the Matrix as an example because it's just so overdone, but it's a very, very good example of what we can do and what we're capable of once we have a full grasp of it, right? And it's not about belief, guys. It's not about hope. It's not about wishing. It comes to a knowing. And when you know it, that's what's real. That's your reality. So in the time that I've been doing this in sales and college admissions and all the different things, it's really interesting to me how many people's reality is defined by what other people tell them. So the alchemic path, the Jedi path, is literally life through gnosis, which is how all the philosophers lived before. So go through the experiences, go through these steps, have the time, have the practice, and have the breakthroughs. I mean, it's beyond awakening once you actually taste what's right in front of you. It's incredible. The last pillar of study is going to be alchemy, which is just equivalent exchange, guys. It's the lead into gold. And here on the show, we talk it mostly metaphorically, taking your lead, acknowledging it, and transmutating it, turning it, transforming it into gold. And everything that we have, and that's why I'm so excited about tonight's show, is a tool that you can really use to sharpen your senses. And last week when we were talking about all the different things in metaphysics that are out there, the seeing auras and being able to heal people with your energy and all these things, guys, these are simply heightened levels of awareness. The easiest way to get heightened levels of awareness is to have new experiences, have new visual aids, and things that create these new synapses and pathways in your brain that make these realities potential, that make them possible, and then make them believable and make them real. And those are the steps that you have to take. So a lot of times, because people will hear about someone doing Reiki or hear about somebody talking about, I can talk to past loved ones and things like that. Well, if you can't physically see that, it's very difficult to contextualize it unless you're an empath or you have some of those same abilities that allow you to kind of perceive some of the similar things. So tonight, as we're getting into alchemy, here's tonight's thing, guys. Hang on, and anyone that's in the chat room, please chime in if you have any questions. Tonight's show, we're going to be talking about how sci-fi, anime, and gaming are actually gateways to consciousness when used as the proper tool, right? And before anyone has like a big question about that, consider that there's people out there that do a huge number of different types of plant medicines and psychedelics purely just for the party and for the entertainment and the escapism of it. But those plant medicines are amazing tools that when used the right way also are gateways into consciousness. So again, guys, everything that you have at your disposal is as good as you make it, right? So it's very, very important that you understand that with me, okay? So tonight's show really is a little bit more directed to the youth, just because many of them already are kind of onto this and they know about the tools. They might not just know that they're using them incorrectly. Or some of them might even know that they're using them the right way. And as parents, we're so programmed or melted into this version of reality that we a lot of times miss out on what our kids are trying to explain and talk to us. And so because they're still more connected with source and they haven't been so brainwashed and trained and closed off from all these things, we dismiss a lot of things that they say, and that's very, very incorrect for us. So don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's a lot of adults, and thank you everyone that's out there tonight that will take this seriously and look into it, because they're really small but fun steps that will give you an entire plethora of things to at least research and find new practices, if nothing else, along the way. Okay, so the main reason that I wanted to do this, aside from how it's been my everything, was the other day I was online and I came across this meme that really reminded me, like, man, I do need to get this episode done and really deliver this the right way. The meme said, it's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken adults. And what's really interesting about that is my children, my son Amante, who's 11, going to be 12 soon, in Zion, he's almost 2. They're really, really strong kids, man. And we've, I rule with an iron fist. Just kidding. You know, I let him do whatever he wants, but within reason. I treat him like he's an adult. But this kid, like, he's in 6th grade, just did his math test and did like 9th level math, right? He's just, he'll go up on stage and talk in front of anybody. And he's just a very strong child. I have less worry about him as long as we stay on this trajectory right now than most of the people I see when I'm just out and about walking around, because his mental fortitude is very strong. He's very disciplined, and his value systems are built off of love and empathy for people in the planet instead of materialistic things. So it's just, and you know, everyone's value system is different. So I'm just saying, for me, that's really important to me. So it makes me really, really happy. But the idea of getting to a certain age where you are closed off from these things, and a lot of people that are here for the show tonight, is because we are trying to get back to these childlike ideals and mindsets and magic and all those things. And so again, any adults that are here, please just humor me on the sci-fi and the anime and gaming, and by the time I break it all down with the 3 pillars. And again, there's lots of approaches, but this is an amazing way for kids, and again, a lot of adults. I was a big nerd, so you know, it's cool with me. Got you, Cody. So look, so science fiction, guys, and this is really important also before we get into it, right? This is this will be in the book I'm working on, but science basically is just it's a precursor. Anything that's science fiction is a precursor to what we will have very, very soon. Decades before the cell phone, like Star Trek, was 1964. They had the little communicator devices, right? And then in 1974, was named Martin Cooper, I think, built the first like cell phone. And we went from something that was very science fiction to closer to a reality. And now here we are 20, 30, 50 years later, and now we've got cell phones that can do video calls, and I can see you guys all around the world, and I can have a conversation with you. So the idea of seeing these things in science fiction, whether it is anime and it is people that are using chakras to levitate and whatever it might be, these things were science fiction and unrealistic decades ago as well. And our science has way surpassed where we were then. So again, the things I'm talking about, guys, are things that are here right now. It's just a matter of application and dedication. And that's the other big thing about this, is going this route with games and anime and sci-fi. You can spend the amount of time that you need through the mastery, not really doing much but watching and taking it in. So a lot of times when people want to get into metaphysics and they want to get into alchemy and they want to find out about the Jedi stuff, it's always about the action. It's all about the right now and how quickly can I do these things, when what you guys have to understand is that these Tibetan monks go for the entire lifetime to figure out how to do a fraction of these things that you guys want to rush into right now. So this is a way that you can take a slower approach, more fun, and just more directed, okay? So physical, right? For the physical pillar, this is amazing. And what I need you guys to really understand tonight when we're getting into whether it's a game, whether it's an anime, whether it's something science fiction. Jeff Daugherty's in the building, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing, brother? It's good seeing you. Your imagination, right, is very important. Your imagination is not an imagination. It's not perceiving or making up or generating anything at all. Now, to a degree, sure, you can play with that idea, but guys, again, one of the other pillars is the multiverse. So the multiverse says every single possible existence out there exists in some way, shape, or form. It's out there. Now, even Nikola Tesla, and we've talked about this on the show a bunch, even Tesla mentioned that the imagination is a receiver. It's an antenna, right? Excuse me. So that antenna simply just allows you to gleam and see other places, other realities. And these TV shows and these animes and these games, we're just getting a translated version of what the creators are perceiving when they're in their imagination, if that makes sense to you guys, right? So all these things are not fake. They're not something that are pretend. It's really another pocket of existence somewhere. It's another reality that's on a different frequency, that's at a different resonance. So when you understand that, when we start talking about these things that you see on these shows, understand that these are things that are real somewhere. And again, we have the ability to shift into these different pockets of consciousness and energy and even our reality. So instead of thinking of it as you're figuring out a way to break through into moving something with your mind here, as an example, right? Well, you're not necessarily doing that here in this reality. You're more shifting into a reality where that is something that's real, where that's something that is tangible. You're shifting all the time. Right now, it might seem more difficult to understand or grasp when it comes to things like metaphysics and energy and magic, which is the same thing. But imagine if you guys decided not to tune into the show tonight, right? That's just another version of reality that someplace that was the decision that was made. And so that's a parallel that's happening at the same time right now. Now, again, not exactly what I'm talking about as far as shifting into these other dimensions and realities, but the same way as if you hung up right now or you disconnected right now, you'd now be in a new reality, right? And you'd be in the one where you're not listening to me anymore. So that's a different way of shifting, but it is still shifting. Okay, so with the physical, the first anime that you guys have to look into, because guys, I'm telling you, when you start training and you get excited about this, this is what builds these things up, right? So anyone that's seen anime, watched any type of science fiction, anything, has heard of the show Dragon Ball Z, right? This is a cult classic, goes way, 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 way back, way back. Yes, Raquel. Raquel and Facebook just mentioned that this helps her to understand the Mandela effect. And yes, absolutely. This is how the Mandela effect is so prevalent and why it works the way that it does. And we'll touch on that a little bit tonight as well. So in Dragon Ball, you have this character named Goku, who is, and again, I'm giving you the synopsis, but it's more about the things you're going to learn along the way that I want to talk about, okay? So in Dragon Ball, you essentially have this alien race that looks like humans. They fight, they train, they get to where they can fly, levitate, but it starts from being a very young age, being a child, and having someone that mentors and trains him to discipline and train every single day. We're talking hundreds of push-ups. We're talking thousands of punches. We're talking, here's what's cool about this, guys. They're physical training fighters, but they actually sit and meditate and visualize them fighting themselves. So it's not just a physical part of what they show in this as much as you see the muscles and the fighting and all this. The mental fortitude and the tactical abilities that these characters develop as you're watching it is something that as you're watching, you're going, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. And oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. And this is how you start building new ideas and get new parts of your synapses to trigger, right? I know it sounds simple, but I promise you it works this way. You're very visual. So these are things that are required. Also through different parts of the training, right? They go through transformations. And anyone that's on their journey and on their path right now, how many times have you felt like you've gone through a transformation, right? Sometimes it's really big, sometimes it's really small, sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's you close off and kill off an entire part of your being because it's no longer serving you to any type of good. It's just causing you problems all the time. So these are transformations we go through, again, guys, as we shift, but in the show, you get to see it in a physical way. So metaphorically, you see a more intense version of it. And guys, again, you can watch this stuff as escapism if you want to, but if you really watch and you're paying attention and studying it, then you're going to learn a whole lot. Let's see. Oh, this is also really awesome. So they exercise nonstop. It gets to a point to where when they're just out walking and talking and moving around, even their regular everyday clothes are like weighted, right? So they're really heavy. And so that way, when they take them off, they can move much faster and so on, right? So they're always pushing themselves to the farthest limits possible. And guys, even things like was a 400-meter dash. I think we've talked about this a few times, was a long distance run for a long time. And then one guy just decided, I'm going to sprint and run the whole time. And the next thing you know, it now became a sprint and he just murdered everybody. So we're always limited by what we're told is possible. So throw that entire stupid idea out the window and just do whatever you want. Like really, like just focus on what's going to grow for you and grow for your family and leave a positive impact. And that can really be just your kids. That could be just you being nice to people every day when you're out and about. It doesn't have to be every single possible good thing out there. As long as you're putting effort in and you're growing for yourself, then you're winning. It's that easy. Some other things you'll see along the way of watching Dragon Ball and going through the shows, you'll see things with like connecting with beings energetically. So at one point, Goku reaches out and connects with every single being energetically in the universe and has them send him energy. If you've ever done like a mass meditation or energy healing work or any other type of connected ritualistic work, when you can feel the consciousness and the energy signature of your tribe, of the other humans around you, and hopefully not humans around you, but it's a really interesting resonance and feel that you get that in the show they break down like the science behind it or the idea, the concept behind it to make it more easy to understand how and the why of how it all works, right? It's amazing. A couple other things you see, like there's reincarnation, there's things about the afterlife, which again, not the heaven and hell version that they talk about in most religions, like dimensions, like this is where your consciousness goes afterwards. And same thing, good people, bad people, like that's still all good and fine. You see things about switching bodies with your consciousness, things about wishes, energy consumption, angels, demons, aliens, flying, senzu beans, like very specific like plant vegetables that you eat and then revitalize your entire body. We have this somewhere on the planet. We got to find it. And you know, guys, all the medicine that we need is out there. And most of these shows I'm talking about implement that exact same ideal. So that's another thing that's amazing. Really good friend of mine, real quick, and I mentioned this before on the show. I know he was in Japan and was talking with someone that told them in the East, all the metaphysics and all the alchemy and the Tao, all these things are very real. So they also believe in mass consciousness, which means when one human being, one person that has the same DNA as you, figures something out, this idea, this skill, this ability goes off somewhere into something called the Akashic Records, like this invisible energy library, right? And then you have access to that now because you share that same type of DNA, right? Which is really, really amazing. So they make all these shows, and we'll talk about some of the similarities here in just a few minutes, but they talk about a lot of these shows and put them together in a way that hoping that kids will see this and duplicate it and mimic it and then have some like amazing super breakthrough, and then we'll all learn that magically, right, through mass consciousness, which is an amazing idea. And even if it doesn't work, that's just beautiful for the effort. So again, these are things that are there for you guys to just know about and to research, because all these things are based in a reality, and then you just have to figure out how to tap into that, right? It's cool. So next physical part, right? And I'll start going a little faster because we got a lot to cover. There's a show out there called Bleach. Of all the anime and all the shows that are out there for exercises to learn ways to harness your energy being, In my opinion, Bleach is probably the best one that you could watch next to Avatar: The Last Airbender. Right now, the reason this is they go through a kid who is just like sensitive to energy, right? And a lot of people out there listening right now, I've talked to so many of you guys that you're very sensitive as well. You can feel other people's energy, and you can feel just when something's not right or when something really good is about to happen. Like you just have that discernment, you have that ability, right? So this show Bleach starts off with this kid Ichigo, just a regular high school kid that can sense these same type of energies. Right. Next thing he knows, there's people that come from like a type of heaven that fight monsters from killing off souls before they pass on to the afterlife. Right. Again, the short version, guys. But so they take him, and because he has this ability, he ends up becoming one of these people that fights hollows, monsters, to send good people to heaven and make sure that the bad monsters, the hollows, go the other way. Right. So as you watch this, they talk about multiple different pocket dimensions. Right, it's amazing, right? So they talk about the current plane that we're in right now. This is one. Then there's different ones that have like doorways to other dimensions and other places. So you've got your heaven, you've got kind of like your hell. But anyways, there's just a lot about the afterlife in different dimensions. You have the trial by fire, right? Some people need study, right? They need discipline. They need to write down. They need to go very slow. Some people, they have to have that trial by fire. They have to learn the hard way. They have to go through the experience. So the very beginning of Bleach all the way through is just nonstop growth and pushing and emotional. There's so much focus that's required by the main characters. And what's really cool about it is you see character development in a way where you're seeing consciousness as a cartoon, but you swear these are actual people that you know. And this is the point I'm getting to, guys, is your consciousness is your being. So when you're watching these things, you connect with these characters in a way. It's very similar to when you read a book. So as you're going through these experiences, again, these new ideas and pathways, they get built. It's amazing. So again, we've got energy sensing specifically. Anyone that's done like distance healing Reiki before, and I'm sure there's other types of healing modalities that you can do from a distance, there's a way that you have to tap into your client, your friend, your family members. You have to tap into their energy signature. Right. So Bleach has this amazing episode where they walk through and explain exactly how to feel someone's energy signature out. Right. And again, I understand that it's a cartoon, guys, but the way that they explain it in the context, and if you go through the practice, I'm just saying it's worked for me the times that I've done distance healing, and doing it from how I was trained traditionally worked to a degree. But this was something that just sped up my process and allowed me to do it at a much quicker rate. So again, guys, just more tools for the trade. Another very interesting thing about Bleach, and we'll do an entire episode on this sometime, there's a symbiotic entity habitation. So basically where you've got other entities living within your being symbiotically, that they allow you to use their energy and so on. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people that will call this possession and evil and all these other things, but just, again, watch the show. They give an amazing breakdown. They have the astral plane in this as well as a way to leave the body. So if you guys have seen Doctor Strange or you haven't seen that, they do a lot of stuff about the astral realm there. Bleach has another great example there. The emotional drive that you see throughout the show and the physical bonds, the relation and friendships, right? The ships that carry people through the show, they could not do or have the impact that they make throughout the world as they're going through this journey without each other. And seeing that, I've watched the series, I couldn't even tell you how many times, but reminded me like the relationships we have are important, and the people that we have are going to set the trajectory as how big our impact is going to be. So if you like doing the zombie thing, then, stick to the zombies and y'all stay the zombie out the way. That's cool. But if you're trying to make that splash, then this is why we're all here, to be able to connect and get that resonance and synchronize with each other to really make this big impact, right? It's incredible. And then last part of the physical is going to be Star Wars, guys. If you haven't seen that, there's so many metaphysical and stoic just trade secrets that are built throughout the entire series. And I'm talking about the games especially. If you guys have seen the shows, they're cool, they're okay. But Star Wars, again, based off of another perceived reality, another place a long time ago, another galaxy, just another dimension, no big deal. The force they talk about is actually what we call the balance in Jedi alchemy, right? Which is the force that's connected into everything. And when you understand that balance, again, the same way that they show in this movie, you have the ability to manipulate it to a degree, right? So what's awesome is they talk about this energy field that we're all connected to. They talk about crystals that if they resonate and vibrate a certain way, create like a laser sword, right? They use things like sacred geometry. What are they called? The cubes. Holocron cubes that store information, and so they have sacred geometry built into it as well. They have meditation, they have resonance, they have telekinesis. It really has everything that you could need to get a starter set of what's possible out there. And then after that, it's up to you to do your research, develop your practice, and so on, right? Another thing that's really cool about this, guys, because again, you want to develop your whole being, right? So doing the studies, doing the research, watching these shows, mimicking what you see in the shows, all that's good and great, but you still have to be working on your physical aspect as well. So here's a really cool thing about Star Wars. With virtual reality now that's happening in gaming, there's this game called Beat Saber. So you basically go into the VR and these little arrows come flying at you, and you have lightsabers in your hand, and you cut these things back and forth, and you're doing 100 to 500 repetitions in a minute. It's crazy. But what I've done is I went out and got some ankle weights and put them on my wrists. So now I've got weighted wrist weights, right? And earlier I was talking about Goku training with the weights, right? So I'm telling you, I work out and that's my workout. And then when I take them off and they fall to the ground, so I feel like I'm Goku. Like it's an amazing way to motivate and get the nostalgia and training and entertainment all at the exact same time. So if I had not seen that show, if I had not seen Star Wars, if the VR thing wasn't there, that's not something that I'd be doing. But I'm telling you, I do it and it kicks my ass. But it's amazing. I love it. I love it a lot. So those would be the first three I would suggest getting into, and those will lead you into other things as far as getting more familiar with your physical being and what's possible physically. Just again, as a starting point. Getting into mental, again, I got to give an auto mention to Bleach, because again, it really is about deep mental fortitude and actions, and yeah, incredible. So mental, again, guys, gets back into who your consciousness is, what's your perceived reality. So there's a show out called Sword Art Online, right? There's a character named Kirito. With VR right now, we put the goggles on and we can see this stuff, right? There's a type of virtuality, guys, coming. You've seen it in certain movies like Ready Player One. If you have seen Sword Art Online, it's called full dive technology. It's essentially where a computer actually plugs into part of your head and your consciousness leaves and goes into like a digital virtual world, right? And probably by 2035, if not sooner than that, we're going to have this. If you guys look up, Elon Musk was working on this thing called the Neuralink, right, as a way to make our brains able to connect to computers. I honestly don't know how I feel about it yet, but that is part of the process that's going to get us to full dive technology. So in the show Sword Art Online, all these people go into the first full dive system, and it's like set in old like Dungeons and Dragons and wizards and dragons and fairies and all this stuff. But if you die in the game, you die in real life, right? And the only way to win is to beat the game, and then you can come back to the real world, right? So the whole series just shows consciousness in a whole new level, because again, when they get into this world, they're talking to real people. And here, the way the full dive works, all your senses are active, because guys, your senses you're feeling is electricity, right? You're an electrical being. So with full dive, they have the ability to stimulate those exact same senses in your body while you're in the digital world. So everything links up. So whatever happens, you really feel and really experience. So this again is your consciousness, which is who you are. This is just your current avatar right now, right? So again, watching this will give you guys a really good concept of what I'm talking about. But it goes into perceived realities. They go from one game to another game to another game, showing the ability to shift from one world into another, and back and forth and so on. Another thing that's really big about the gaming stuff, guys, is when you go online, you connect with so many people. So they end up having to live in this like virtual world for like a year and a half. I don't want to give it away, but they stay there for a while, and they basically build friendships and families there. And then once they get out, now these are lifelong friends. And there's a lot of kids these days that just feel ostracized at school, they get bullied, different things like that. And so the games, guys, as much as the escapism part is real, like unfortunately the real world is really mean sometimes. And finding your tribe is finding people that are like-minded. And so that's what a lot of kids use to find people and connect with them. And it's absolutely incredible. You know, my son, again, I use it as a tool, so I let him as well. And he's got a huge following and lots of friends that he plays with there. But he also just went away to a camp for a week with 4 other schools. When I picked him up, he was crying because he met so many new amazing people. So again, if we don't have access to those amazing people, then we got to find them the best way we can. And for better or worse, the internet's here to allow us to connect. So again, just however you use the tool is important. After Sword Art Online, this is actually really cool. One of the most popular games in the history of gaming, right? Definitely biggest company is this company called Blizzard. They make games like World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, Overwatch, StarCraft 2. Guys, this is crazy. Check this out. So when I'm talking about watching these things for research and to learn better practices, right? Check this out. At one point, a university in Florida, I think it was 2009 to 2012, were actually offering college credit to play StarCraft 2, right? Because in it, you learn about resource management and how do you make sure you use and build and plan things out very specifically, very precisely. And if you don't do it, then you die and you don't win the game. So going in and playing these type of things, you also have to play with other people. So you have to learn how to communicate and plan and strategize. And so again, guys, it's all about how you use the tool. So you go in there, there's like tech possibilities that you find out about. Like there's things that kids will see in these games that will want to become engineers and figure out how to make it. Right. So again, very, very important. And what's interesting about this game is you play through all these different little races of people. One of the characters' name is Zeratul. He's like this mystic, and it's crazy because they're talking about all this alien tech, but they're using like gigantic crystals that resonate very specifically to generate energy for everybody, right? So they have free energy tech within the game, but the way they talk about it is the same way that some of the free energy tech stuff works right now that we can't get into because they're listening. You guys know what I'm talking about. But anyways, it's very interesting though. I'm just telling you guys. And then when you watch it, also has like amazing cinematics too. So very, very cool to see. Third one, and this is also really, really important because the only time I've ever done cosplay in my life, I dressed up as this character. So when I say that this is a really good show that you should watch for your mental fortitude, I will warn you it's a little gory, right? It's a little gruesome, a little graphic. So I wouldn't recommend it for any children. Okay, that's just right now I wouldn't. But it's called Death Note. Right, main character is this kid named Light Yagami. It has a whole different take on the afterlife where there's multiple like Grim Reapers, right? And anytime a human dies, they go to collect them. They get all the years that the person would have had left, like if they didn't die by this accident. So they basically live in like this other limbo dimension. So again, more dimensional stuff. And they use time, and like that's their actual years, as a currency. So they're all bored, and one decides to send a book that will allow any human to kill any other human, like supernaturally, and just see what he would do. And so you get to see just this amazing twist on Grim Reapers. They love apples because they taste like life, and they don't have that in the afterworld. There's just so much focus, and there's this amazing level of mental chess that happens in the game. So I'm telling you guys, you just have to check it out. It's amazing. And then the main character basically loses his mind to his ego. So again, watch it for the metaphors and watch it for the tool to see what happens when you are given access to full power and you don't keep yourself in check, right? So going slow and steady is very, very important. And seeing shows like, Death Note is going to be a really, really good reminder for those of us that want to rush everything. Okay, so for the spiritual part, and man, we're doing really good on time, guys. This is dope. Thank you for everyone that's in the Facebook channel. Joe Sakula, good seeing you, brother. Love you, man. Cordia, good seeing you. Joanne, John. So the spiritual part, guys, this is, if you were to start with any three of the pillars, right? This is the one I would say to start with just because it's going to be really fun. It's going to give you time to develop a steady routine of practices, right? So when you get into your spiritual, the very first, and guys, I'm telling you, this is important. They won an Emmy, all sorts of awards. It's called Avatar: The Last Airbender. Right now, I'm not talking about any of these things. I'm not talking about the Netflix version. All right. So you're going to have to go online and find some place to watch it. It was on Nickelodeon. But in this, guys, you've got elemental mastery. They call it bending. So bending fire and water and all these different things. There's reincarnation. There's tons of different cultures. So you see how cultures blend and don't blend. And there's war. There's so many studies and practices throughout the entire show on meditation, right? On chakra control. Man, you guys can learn so much about just how to focus your chi and energy just watching the show. I promise. They show things about the spirit world through astral projecting. And then my favorite place to be, the avatar state, right? Which is a very heightened state of awareness and consciousness. Within the show, it's more to where he can control all the elements and so on. But there are ways to reach this state where we are currently. And it's amazing because you can see what's coming within a day or two, within a week. You can manifest things in real time. You can think about something and just have it show up. These are real things, guys. And I'm sure a lot of you have had these experiences in the ways that work for you. I'm just telling you, these are things that I'm telling you, just check it out. Then you've got Naruto, which became a very, very quick cult classic. Like, it's probably the next Dragon Ball Z comparatively. So also very amazing for your spiritual and physical both. Naruto's a really good one. They have multiple episodes about the chakra systems, how to use them, practices to build up specific chakra points within the body, how to open your energy meridians, breath work, other types of elemental mastery, tactics, communication, teamwork, combinations. And guys, this is another thing as well. Especially for my couples that are out there that are energy workers or healers together, or anyone that's in like groups that they do multiple work together. Guys, working with multiple people when you're working with your practices and with your being creates fields together that resonate and create bigger amounts of energy that you can use to do more work. So if you're out there and you're not working with each other, but you both have the ability to do that, just make sure you take the time to work out your energetic combinations and what you can actually accomplish together, because it's very, very specific reasons that two different musical tones make a third one, right? Multiple is always going to amplify. So it's very important that you do that. And within the show Naruto, they really show the importance of teamwork as they go through all these different like jutsus, which are basically like ninja magical techniques, whatever. But what's dope is they use mudras, right? Which are hand signs. And different hand signs, because your body's a big bioenergetic circuit board, right? So placing your fingers in certain energies, when you know how to manipulate your energy body, will create a circuit board to be able to manipulate and bend, again, the fabric we're at here. At least in the show, you'll see it. And then again, mudras is a huge thing, and there's lots of shows that use them, and they all use the same ones for the same reason. So guys, I'm telling you, there's reasons for these things. You also see things on reincarnation, more things about crystals, things about bloodline limits. And this is really important because, guys, not everybody can dunk a basketball, not everybody can write pretty, not everybody can drive a car. So just because there's certain abilities and skills that are out there that sound exciting and sound amazing that you want, not everything is for everybody. So find out what resonates with you, that works well for you, and sharpen and work on those skills and find out how to make it a better tool for what you want to accomplish. Everything can be accomplished, and there's multiple ways to do it. But Naruto, again, is a really good example of showing what bloodline limits work like, and how certain families can only do certain things, and the reasons behind it. It's really, really cool. Ryan Goss in the building. Cool Slims. How you doing, man? Good seeing you. Good seeing you. They show a lot about the focus of will. There's more symbiotic entity hibernation and fractal consciousness, which is where your mind is split into multiple versions of yourself, all learning at the same time, which is another one of my favorite things. Absolutely incredible. Last one, guys, The Magicians. The show The Magicians. It's like a grown-up version of Harry Potter had sex with Narnia. Like, that's the best way I can describe what the show's like. But they have all types of magic. They have classifications. They have schools. They have practices. They have these amazing, like, hand-synchronized tutting mudras. So it looks like breakdancing with the hands, making mudras, again, for energy manipulation or spell work. There's dimensions. There's gods. There's astral projecting. Literally everything. And, again, really, really good basics and places to go. Right. So those are the three main pillars of the Jedi alchemic practices and metaphysics. Right. So you take those three pillars, find whichever one resonates and excites you the most, and pick out any of those things that I talked about. Right. If you guys are with me on Facebook, send me a message. I can send you like a PowerPoint for this. If you're interested, shoot me an email, halo.marquise@gmail.com, and I'll get this over to you guys. I think I'm going to be putting together actual classes that you guys will be able to purchase really soon as well. But for right now, I like sending it out to you guys. It's cool. What's really important earlier when I was talking about these three aspects that we have, right? As we take these steps and we learn and we progress and we get further along the spiral, we're going to be able to refine our perception, right? And we're going to be able to broaden it as well. But refinement really is where you bend your tool and bend your being into what you want it to be able to do and what you want it to be able to manipulate, right? So you start with those three pillars and then you refine them down. And now it's really, really important that you guys understand this, because it's not necessarily that the more sides that you have, the better that you are, right? Because you can get as many sides as you want until finally you're well-rounded. That's what they say, right? Be well-rounded. Well, that's cool, but the sphere is only one of a handful of the sacred geometrical patterns that are out there, right? So if you take the platonic solids, if the tetrahedron, if you take that, that's four sides. That's the element of fire, right? That's only four sides, though. On the other hand, if you go with a sasahedron, that's 20 sides, and that's water. So the more sides isn't necessarily more powerful than the 4. It's a completely different element. It's a completely different aspect. So as you're refining yourself and choosing how many sides and how many faces and how many dimensions you really want to be able to have and focus on, remember, it's not always that it's the more the better. It's what's real and what's conducive and what resonates. That's all that you need, right? So you don't have to try to fit yourself into a different shape because that's what other people are doing. Like, find out what works for you. Going through things like watching these shows, finding out practices that they use is going to be an amazing tool for that. The multiverse pillar, man, let's see how much time we got. Yeah, we'll still get into it. So the multiverse, guys, you're gonna look up a show called Fringe, right? I forgot we had a couple slides left. I thought we were almost done to wrap up, but it's okay. So that's how we work. It's good. Wizards always on time. In Fringe, you're going to see things about metaphysics and fringe science, right? So not as much as the fantasy and magical type of things, but real fringe science, right? Parallel dimensions like with CERN and the Super Hadron Collider, mass consciousness on huge scales, psychics, doppelgangers. What's really interesting is they talk about resonance and frequency throughout the entire show for all the seasons and everything about the importance of how the dimensions and the frequencies are different in between. So it's very amazing, again, metaphysical approach to it. Other multiverse things like The Flash. Guys, with Barry Allen, with that, you've got the multiverse, you've got superpowers, you've got time control, slowing down from moving too fast. And guys, that's the thing. Our reality right now is the speed we're moving at to perceive this. So when you hear people talking about raising their vibration, by raising it, that speeds it up. And by speeding it up, you move into a higher vibrational space where what you're perceiving is at higher rates, higher speeds. You have access to more energy. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, watch things like The Flash and stuff. It'll break it down. In that, you've got time travel. Again, they talk about resonance, frequency, dimension, all those things. And lastly, for the multiverse is, guys, the online gaming thing that I was talking about earlier. So my dad lives in Missouri. My brother lives in Arizona. One of my really, really great friends lives in Dubai. And these are people, when I jump online, I can see these guys digitally, right? So I can't taste, I can't smell. I can feel a little bit. My controller shakes. I can hear, I can see. So I'm limited on some of the senses I have, but you have access to other things within the game. This, again, is a way of living in a digital world where your consciousness goes there, right? Again, not the same thing as Full Dive yet, but again, guys, in these places, you learn just amazing tools that you can bring back to the real world. Alchemy. We're looking at things like Full Metal Alchemist, Brotherhood. Guys, this anime puts in like actual alchemy, putting your hands on stuff, transmuting it in real time, changing it into weapon, changing it into water. The Philosopher's Stone. Now, guys, this is something in multiple shows, multiple science fictions, even Leonardo da Vinci. Like, the Philosopher's Stone is this huge alchemaic powerhouse, and there's ways of figuring out how to harness that here and create it here. It's really, really interesting. Brotherhood, again, is about these two brothers, so you see their relationship, again, how that carries them through the entire show. They use sacred geometry through things like transmutation circles and that stuff that alchemists of right now in R3D use as well. So again, another great resource to check into. Then you've got Tokyo Ravens, the hand signs we were talking about earlier, the mudras. They have tons of them throughout the entire series and break down the how and the why. They have ways of showing you how to connect with spirits, guides. They also get into reincarnation, awakening, right? Which, after you've been asleep for a long time or you've been reincarnated and you don't know who you were the past life, you don't have access to energy, you go through the awakening and then you get access to it. Kind of like what some of you guys are doing right now. It's amazing. They also have relics, like magical tools. They talk about ley lines, like in our plane, how we've got ley lines like that cross energy pathways where the pyramids are and Eiffel Tower. And again, ley lines, guys, check that out. Then alchemy, you've also got Soul Eater. Soul Eater gets more into things like spirits, demons, witches, transformation, spirit energy, spirit consumption. So when you guys hear about energy vampires, they are definitely out there for sure. And this gives you a really good way of seeing it. It also talks a lot about resonance for energy fields and harmonizing with two people to create very specific types of energy to do bigger energy works, right? A couple other honorable mentions, guys, while we're wrapping up. And again, thank you. Everyone's been to the channel. We had to rush through a couple parts of it, but again, get a hold of me if you guys need to do more, and I might put up another video on this and do like a part 2. Some honorable mentions, though, and I thought this was really important. Guys, do you remember the Karate Kid? If you remember the Karate Kid when Daniel-san, that's right, Daniel-san, that's his name, when he hurt his leg and Mr. Miyagi clapped and did the little rub of his hands and then healed his leg and it was fixed. Check this out. Whether you believe it or not, you can Google it. That was Mr. Miyagi doing Reiki, like actual Reiki. So Reiki is Japanese practice for people that don't know that. And the Karate Kid actually had him do that, and everyone's just like, oh, he did some magical shit. That's Reiki. You can learn to do that. It's incredible. He also taught Daniel, the wax on, wax off, where he was learning how to fight without knowing he was learning how to fight. And a lot of students, especially ones that I work with, don't know that that is more important than learning the way that you think that you want to. The muscle memory and the accidental learning you do along the way doing the task is what's going to stick much faster than the other modes. And I thought that was an amazing way that Karate Kid gave the example of make sure you always follow the master, right? Very important. Another honorable mention, Doctor Who. I've only seen a handful of episodes, and I know about it pretty well, but I guess me and him are basically the same people. Like everyone else, I guess, has the same ability, but, does space and time movement, goes through the dimensions, has symbiotic consciousness with his, with TARDIS, sorry. Yeah, thing. Reincarnation, regeneration, about paradoxes, time echoes, amazing things. Really, really good things. Also great keys. Once Upon a Time, as much as it's silly, but again, they have people that had these amazing abilities, fell asleep, went to another place, didn't know they were sleeping gods and giants and magical beings. So again, at least has to have that honorable mention. There was a couple other ones. There's a show called Lost Girl, gets into succubus and fae folk. Amazing show to watch. There's a lot of good sci-fi stuff out there, guys. But just again, as long as you're taking the time to develop your practice and you're doing some type of growth, right? You don't have to worry about your speed, worry about your trajectory, worry about where your plan of attack and landing is. And as long as you're doing that, you can go as slow as you want to. Just make sure you are progressing and, we're evolving past this stuff. Order of Alchemy, guys. Really soon we're going to have our aura blades for the Jedi School. We're putting together a retreat really soon. So there's a lot of really great and big things that are coming. So thank you guys again for joining me. Next week, I believe we're going to be having this young man on who's been doing just incredible works in the youth and really spreading an amazing message of consciousness and self-responsibility and love. And so next week, I hope to have him on. Again, you guys have any questions, you can always shoot me an email, halo.marquise@gmail, or add me on Instagram, halo.marquise, or Halo Marquise on Facebook. If you're with me on Artists First tonight, I appreciate you guys as always. You can check out the other videos on the archive, and orderofalchemy.org will take you to the YouTube channel for all the previous podcasts. I love you guys. Let's try to be better humans. If not, then just evolve right on past it. I love you, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you. All right.
What do you want me to title tonight's show?
Where to start?
Where to start?
Yep.
Okay, we're a little backed up because the computer crashed today, but it'll be up either very late tonight or early tomorrow morning.
Okay, that sounds great.